the original Constitution, as well as the Civil War amendments, but I think it is an imperfect document, and I think it is a document that reflects some deep flaws in American culture, the colonial culture nascent at that time.
Then something peculiar happened during the presidency of George W. Bush. In the aftermath of 9/11, the loss of liberty became more direct and more obvious. By the time of President Bush's second term, there was angry and vocal dissent to the loss of personal freedom. By then, federal agents were writing their own search warrants, bypassing judges. The government was monitoring the computer strokes of ordinary folks, not just alleged terrorists. The feds even prosecuted an 80-year-old librarian because she told her 75-year-old assistant that the FBI came calling at the public library where they both worked. One of the dissenters to all of this was a young junior senator from Illinois named Barack Obama. Now, of course, he's the president. President Obama's flip-flop on personal freedom has shown his almost magical transformation from a peaceful civil libertarian into an authoritarian who thinks he can start wars without congressional approval, dispatch police to break down doors of unsympathetic defendants, and wage a war on the wealthy. He's even demanded to know to whom business people have made political contributions before he will let the government do business with them. He wants to tax the most productive in our society, and he's nominated to lifetime federal court judgeships, persons so out of the mainstream of legal thinking that even his fellow Democrats have opposed them. President Obama's post-9/11 world has radically redefined privacy laws, so much so that we allow the government to force us into nude photo booths and touch our children and babies in their most intimate places. Have you ever noticed that the government always claims that when it does these things, it does so in the name of safety? When is the last time you heard the government give, as a basis for its behavior, personal freedom? Some will say, come on, Judge, this is America, we're free. And I would say there are none who are so enslaved as those who falsely believe themselves to be free. Supreme Court Justice Felix Frankfurter warned us about this 2 generations ago. He said, the loss of liberty rarely comes overnight. It usually comes because of well-intended people and the unintended consequences of their use and abuse of government. This break, the President of the United States of America violated his oath to uphold the Constitution by signing into law a statute that purports to give him the authority to use the military to arrest Americans on American soil and to confine those arrested to a jail in Cuba, away from judges, juries, and lawyers for as long as the president wants. This directly violates the Constitution's guarantee of due process, which requires a jury trial before the government can take anyone's life, liberty, or property. Do you know anybody who voted for this hateful statute? I bet you do.
Governor Romney, when President Obama signed the National Defense Authorization Act into law, he enacted a provision allowing him to indefinitely detain American citizens in U.S. military custody. Many, including Congressman Paul, have called this unconstitutional. At the same time, the bill did provide money to continue funding U.S. troops. Governor Romney, as president, would you have signed the National Defense Act as written? Yes, I would have, and I do believe that it's appropriate to have in our nation the capacity to detain people who are threats to this country, I recognize that when you're in a setting when there are enemy combatants and some of them on our own soil, that could possibly be abused.
Our beliefs and other people. I believe that abortion should be safe and legal in this country. I have since the time that my mom took that position when she ran in 1970 as a U.S. Senate candidate. I believe that since Roe v. Wade has been the law for 20 years, that we should sustain and support it. And I sustain and support.
Shannon snuck a little extra point in there that I want to address, and that is with regards to my views with regards to protecting a woman's right to choose. And I've been very clear on that. I will preserve and protect a woman's right to choose, and am devoted and dedicated to honoring my word in that regard. I will not change any provisions of Massachusetts' pro-choice laws. And with regards to this issue of age of consent, it is currently 18 years old. If one wants to have an abortion younger than that, one must have the permission of one parent, and if a parent doesn't go along, one can go to a judge or justice to get that permission. And so far in Massachusetts history, when a young woman has gone to a judge, not one single time has there been a denial of that permission. And so I am in favor of retaining our current law, which is the age of consent remaining at 18. And I will preserve and protect a woman's right to choose. And I
views convince me you won't change again.
You know, the issue where I changed my mind, which obviously draws a lot of attention, was that when I was running for governor, I said I'd leave the law in place as it related to abortion. And I thought I could go on that narrow path between my personal belief and letting government stay out of the issue. And then a piece signed something like that. And I penned an op-ed in the Boston Globe and said I am pro-life, described my view, and served as a pro-life governor. The Massachusetts Citizens for Life have just written a letter this last week describing my record and saying this is a solid record of a very pro-life governor. I'm proud of that record.
And under your economic program, under the program of Mr. Reagan and Mr. Bush, we saw the growth in terms of the unemployment, the growth in the number of children living in poverty, the growth in terms of those children out of wedlock.
Look, I was an independent during the time of Reagan-Bush. I'm not trying to return to Reagan-Bush. My positions don't talk about things that you suggest they talk about. This isn't a political issue.
What would you do about Libya?
Exercise a no-fly zone this evening. Communicate to the Libyan military that Gaddafi was gone and that the sooner they switch sides, the more likely they were to survive. Provided help to the rebels to replace him. The idea that we're confused about a man who has been an anti-American dictator since 1969 just tells you how inept this administration is. They were very quick to jump on Mubarak, who was their ally for 30 years, and they're confused about getting rid of Gaddafi. This is a moment to get rid of him. Do it. Get it over with. I would not have intervened. I think there were a lot of other ways to affect Gaddafi. I think there are a lot of allies in the region that we could have worked with. I would not have used American and European forces. We Americans are going to have to talk together, work together, find solutions together, and insist on imposing those solutions on those forces that don't want to change. Right-wing social engineering is any more desirable than left-wing social engineering. I don't think imposing radical change from the right or the left is a very good way for a free society to operate.
Mr. Speaker, I want to stick with energy policy and play a clip from an ad that you starred in just a couple of years ago.
We don't always see eye to eye, do we, Newt?
No, but we do agree our country must take action to address climate change.
We need cleaner forms of energy, and we need them fast.
That was a striking ad for me, striking ad for, I think, a lot of urgent action we need to take.
Well, first of all, it's probably the dumbest single thing I've done in recent years. It is inexplicable. As somebody used to say, you know, there aren't enough hay wagons to stand on to get people to understand that one. So you just need to kind of relax and go, that was dumb.
Were you being held hostage for that?
No, it was just dumb. I was trying to do something I failed to do.
Just because we disagree on public policy, which is what the debate has been about, which is marriage, doesn't mean that it's bigotry. Just because you follow a moral code that teaches us something wrong doesn't mean that, are you suggesting that the Bible and that the Catholic Church is bigoted? Well, if that's what you believe, fine. I think that 2000, well, I shouldn't say not fine. I don't think it's fine at all. I think that is, that's contrary to both what we've seen in 2,000 years of human history and Western civilization, and trying to redefine something that is seen as wrong from the standpoint of the church, and saying a church is bigoted because it holds that opinion that is biblically based, I think is in itself its act of bigotry. I know a lot of gay people, and it's reason that tells me that, you know, that person that is now alive and human should be given the rights of any person.
Well, you're talking about a rather fringe group of people out here sitting outside your building. I mean, these are the same old folks who have been protesting since, you know, the Vietnam War. So, yeah, I don't really curry much, you know, they don't curry much favor in my book, and I don't think they do with the American people. This is the radical left. So I understand the motivation behind the protest. I don't think that what they're trying to accomplish necessarily is what I would like to see. But clearly, Wall Street should have paid, and in my opinion, still should pay for the consequences of what they've done. When I say Wall Street, I mean the bank and insurance sector.
It is ridiculous that we have a retirement age in this country of age 65 today. At least age 70. I'd go even farther if I could.
Are you still in favor of raising the retirement age?
I think what Joe said was that that's one of the options on the table, and I think that has to be. I don't believe we should raise the retirement age. I've come out foursquare against that.
Since he became a member of Senate leadership, Santorum has voted in favor of budget deficits totaling $1.25 trillion. For all of Rick's tough talk about cleaning up congressional spending, what he's doing is passing a massive bill on to your children and mine.
Millions of tax dollars are spent on this type of computer surveillance, a disgusting procedure for a professed free society.
Less government for individual liberty, get the government off our backs, a more sensible foreign policy.
I'm very disappointed that so far in this Congress we have not yet seen any sincere effort to cut any spending. There's something wrong here that could and should be adjusted with decreased spending, not raising taxes, and not further robbing the Social Security Trust Fund.
The more we threat, the more we intimidate, the more we want to bomb people, the more we're leading into another fiasco like Vietnam. We trade with Vietnam now. That's a much better way than trying to impose our will on Vietnam by going over there and dropping bombs. So I would say that this just points out again that we have a very, very poor foreign policy in the Middle East.
I wish the Congress would address the unconstitutionality of presidents waging war. That to me is a lot more serious than Monica Lewinsky, let me tell you.
The corporations are in bed with the government.
Peace and harmony can never be achieved by bombs and intimidation. Mr. Speaker, over the last 3 to 4 years, I've come to the floor on numerous occasions trying to sound a warning about both our foreign policy and our monetary policy. The cause is the Federal Reserve. The cause is the problem is the Federal Reserve has been granted authority that is unconstitutional to go and counterfeit money. And until we recognize that and deal with that, we will continue to have financial problems. I do not see any reason whatsoever to take young men and young women and send them 6,000 miles off to a land to attack a country that has not committed any aggression against this country. War is not popular. People get killed and body bags end up coming back.
I don't want anybody's legs shot off for some reason that is not justified, and it's not a declared war. I think that should be the litmus test of everybody in this country and everybody over on the Hill too. If this war is worth fighting, are you willing to go and lose your legs, lose your life, or send your kids or send your grandkids?
Will our country become freer, richer, safer, and more peaceful? Or will we continue to suffer from lost civil liberties, a stagnant economy, terrorist threats, and an expanding war in the Middle East and Central Asia? Is it not possible that George Washington's admonition to avoid entangling alliances is sound advice even today? Both candidates supported the war in Iraq and the continuation of it. Both supported the Patriot Act and its controversial attack on personal privacy.
The true patriot will repeal the Patriot Act, is what they will do.
Both candidates supported increased spending in almost all categories. I'm the most conservative member here. I have voted, against more spending and waste in government than anybody else.
Freedom, prosperity, and peace.
Just come home. We just marched in. We just come home.
We have allowed our nation to be overtaxed and overregulated and overrun by bureaucrats. The founders would be ashamed of us for what we're putting up with.
The system designed to protect individual liberty will have no punishments for any group and no privileges. Today, I think inner city folks and minorities are punished unfairly in the war on drugs.
It is our job to check up and find what the Federal Reserve has done, audit them and find out who their buddies are that they're taking care of. It's trillions of dollars we're spending on these wars.